In the beginning, there was God, and God is all there was. Then we divided up. Yet we're still one because we go together, we go together, we go together as one. Will you sing that with me? We go together, we go together, we go together as one. So much love we have all known. This journey through all time, though someone still might feel alone, no one's left behind. Sing with me. We go together, we go together, we go together as one. We go together, we go together, we go together as one. As I reach into all being, you are all a part of me. Fly without each other. When we get this, we'll be free. We go together, we go together, we go together as one. We go together, we go together, we go together as one. We go together. Thank you. I think you can clap. That would be okay. That would be okay. Well, good morning. It's nice to be back here. I'm giving this talk a maiden voyage, so let's see if it works. I wrote a talk for you, and I had to give it the title a few months ago, and And something was really relevant in my life then, and I think we titled it The Last Song You Hear. And I'm going to work that into this talk, but things have changed. So what I'm going to focus on today is living in connection. So that's my talk title, Living in Connection. Subtitle, Are You on God's Wi-Fi? So think about that. And I'm also going to be doing some dueling quotes during this talk. I have 3 areas I'm going to look at. And in each area I'm going to have dueling quotes between the Buddha and Mark Twain. So we'll see what each of them have to say about these topics. Did you like that song?
Yeah.
When that song came to me, it blew my mind, actually, because I think about, we operate, some things are too big for our little human minds to even conceive, so we have to come up with stories or myths, and I forget who it was that talked about that, John Bradshaw, was it 20 years ago? No, it was another guy, but anyway, and to me, this is an explanation of the big myth. How do you conceive of how this whole thing started? The universe, God, everything, how we got here. And the myth that I'm kind of operating from is in that song. And I don't know if you caught it. It says, in the beginning there was God, and God is all there was. And then I think God got a little bit bored of being all there was and wanted somebody to play with. So God divided up into lots of parts, and here we are. So that's my myth. That's what I'm operating from. And we do go together. We're parts of that same whole in consciousness and love and creative energy. And that's why we see God in each other's eyes. So that's the myth I'm operating from in a song. So I also love opening with a joke, so I hunted down a new joke for you. And it does have to do with connection, how these 2 men became connected through coincidence. So let me read this one to you. I don't have it memorized yet. A priest and a rabbi are in a car crash. And it's a bad one. Both of their cars are demolished, but amazingly, neither one of them is hurt. After they crawl out of their cars, the rabbi says, "So, you're a priest? That's interesting. I'm a rabbi. Wow, just look at our cars. There's nothing left, but we're unhurt. This must be a sign from God that we should meet and be friends and live together in peace." So the universe has brought them together to recognize their connection. The priest replies, "Oh yes, I agree. It's a miracle that we've both survived and are here together." "And here's another miracle," says the rabbi. "My car is destroyed, but this bottle of wine didn't break. Surely God wants us to drink the wine and celebrate our good fortune," he says, handing the bottle to the priest. The priest nods in agreement, opens the wine, drinks half of it, and hands it back to the rabbi. The rabbi takes it, puts the cap on. "Aren't you going to have any?" asked the priest. And the rabbi replies, "Not now. I think I'll wait till after the police make their report." He lost the sense of connection there. Well, what I want to look at is, we're talking about connection, and I want to look at different areas where it's really impactful in our lives. And the 3 areas I'm going to touch on are connection with self, connection with others, and connection with God. How each of those show up in our lives and are important parts of how we live. So, and I've spoken here several times. This might be the 4th time, and the very first time I spoke, I did talk some about what Gregory mentioned is, I studied architecture, got my degree, was working in big architectural firms, but had my heart's calling to do something else, to do this music, to do the spiritual journey, and share my gifts in that way. And I've been touring for 35 years now, giving these gifts after I took that leap. And this is partly why I sang the music When You Sing Your Song. So that's about when you hear that inner calling, where is God guiding us? Where's that inner calling in our lives? And when I think about this, I also think about the word integrity. When you hear the word integrity, it's almost like maybe you feel guilt, like, oh, you should tell the truth, be honest, all that. But there's another level that I think is really important on a soul level. And that's, another way of looking at integrity is, are we being aligned, are we being in integrity with the gifts we've been given, with who we came to be? You know, are you following that part of you that, you know, where the joy is in living, you know, what brings you joy as you step into your creativity, into your nature, your true nature. You know, sometimes many of us find ourselves in jobs because we got to pay the bills, but there's not a lot of joy in it. And if you're doing that, do you feel empowered? Do you feel in your power as a soul? Probably not. You know, and if you're lined up with, wow, I'm really getting to give my gift, you know, what God gave me to give. You know, are you feeling joy then? Probably. I mean, there's still the drudge work to do. There's still things to do, but it's more aligned with that. And that's a form of integrity, isn't it? Am I being in integrity with who I'm meant to be? And I think some people, maybe we don't notice that. And that's something to keep in mind. Mark Twain, here's a Mark Twain quote about that. With courage, you dare to take risks. You have the strength to be compassionate, the wisdom to be humble. So I'll read that. I'll start that again. There's a little bit more. With courage, you dare to take risks, have the strength to be compassionate, and the wisdom to be humble. Courage is the foundation of integrity. Courage is the foundation of integrity, to be able to do those things, to be compassionate and to be humble, to dare to take risks. And sometimes it was a risk for me to step into my true calling. You know, it didn't look safe. You know, I'm going to go from my regular paycheck and my benefits to, let's see how this works out. And that's what it was. It was, stepping out in faith. Well, sometimes we have to take those risks to step into integrity, and to really be connected with who we are, that connection with self. And my nickname, you were talking about are you on God's Wi-Fi? This is your inner net. Your inner net. Are you in touch with your inner net of who you're meant to be, who you've been called to be? I've recently taken up meditation again, and that's another way of coming back to that inner self, to stay, connect with who I am. And it's interesting. Have you ever noticed that some things they call like a spiral curriculum in life? Sometimes we come back around to the same truth, but we see it from a slightly different level. And I'm finding this with meditation. Like, so all the things I always heard it was, but I think I understand it more deeply. And what I'm experiencing right now, just sitting still in silence, is just connecting back with who I am as a soul. Just the spirit that I am, apart from the thoughts that are kind of drifting by. And just like, who am I in the midst of, there goes some more thoughts, but who am I in that stillness? And I always heard that, and I knew that at another level before, but it's just, again, it feels more full. And so it's another way we stay in touch with that integrity of who we are, just to stop and be still, maybe just hang out with ourselves in silence a little bit. And I know many of us do that as it is. I'm just coming back to it. So a Buddha was asked, what have you gained from meditation? And his answer was, nothing. However, let me tell you what I've lost. I've lost anger, anxiety, depression, insecurity, fear of old age, and death. Isn't that beautiful? Maybe it's not about gaining, but losing. It's shedding. And again, as we shed, then it's back to who am I at the core of all of this? The connection with self, that inner net. Okay? So next we have connection with others. I'm going to call that our intranet. That connection within, between each other. This is kind of a good talk, isn't it? I'm liking this so far. I feel like I'm an observer as much as a speaker right now. When I first got on a spiritual path, one of the things that really impacted me was that eye connection with others. And we've heard forever, the eyes are the windows of the soul. But I just had some really deep experiences with a simple meditation of sitting across from someone in silence and looking in the eyes for a period of time. Like, it's amazing what's right here under our noses. Like, it's above our noses, but you know what I mean. The presence of who we are inside, looking at who they are inside, who each of us is. To see that connection we have with others. It's so available, but so many times we kind of keep the slight film between each other. There's just a little gauze. Maybe we don't really look, don't really connect. but our connection is there. And I've experienced some amazingly deep experiences in just the simple being to being connection. And that's been very impactful. And this kind of showed up in a different way. I was, Heidi and I were in Kona at a health food store last year. And there's the health food store there where if you're over a certain age, you get a wisdom discount. That's the kind way of not saying senior. And there's this young guy, he looked like he was 24, behind the cash register, kind of your basic Kona, Hawaii hippie, nice guy, the good energy. And I said, oh, I'd like the wisdom discount, please. And he looked at me and said, okay, well, but first, how about some wisdom? And I thought, oh, that's fun. He's a player. Okay, so I said, well, you know, what I found is one of the most important things in life is how easy it is and how beautiful it is when we connect in the eyes. And he looked me deeply in the eyes, and it was just very present with me, and it was a beautiful moment. And it's like, wow, that was really sweet. And then he recommended a movie. He said, well, there's this movie about that you might enjoy. And I don't remember the name of it right now, but I wrote it down. And so there's this moment that happened. And so what I want to look at is how available are we in our moment-to-moment, day-to-day lives to really connect? And maybe even take it another step more than we already do. Do you talk to people in elevators? I do. Do you treat them like they're your sisters and brothers? I do. It's fun to play. And maybe you get a stick in the mud every now and then, but you know, here we are, let's play. And you know, so how available are we? So I mentioned the talk originally was going to be, what's the last song you will hear? And that was inspired by an experience. I got a call, and this is about being available to help, to serve. A call from a friend I've known for 25 years, and he said, hey, I'm here with Deb, and she's a chiropractor. I've given concerts in her chiropractic office in New York City. She's had a very successful practice, had a house in the Hamptons, you know, lived in Manhattan. And he said, hey, Deb's, all of her organs are failing and she probably doesn't have more than a day or so left. Would you sing her a song? It's like, oh my God, what do I do? And so I sang a song where the message is essentially, I am spirit. And just, Deb, I hope you're doing okay. And she was, I guess, in with tubes and stuff. And so she didn't speak back, but then after I sang Io sono spirito, I am spirit, the guy got back and thought, oh, she smiled for the first time today. So, and that got me thinking, is that the last song she'll ever hear on this earth? Was I part of that? And she did pass a little over a day later. And, you know, how do we make these moments precious? And remember, every song could be the last song we'll hear. To stay awake, you know, like the Daily Word said. And you've heard this before, and you've thought this before. When someone near me passes, I get back into that, oh my God, I have to make this all precious. I need to remember. And then if you're like me, after about 10 days, you forget again. You're just back to, here it is again. And, just to be available to each other. You never know when connection is going to show up, an availability, an opportunity. I was on this flight from San Francisco to Japan. First time I'd ever flown there. And I was in the 747. You know how they have that kind of lump on top? You know, it's mostly a plane, but then in the front of the plane there's this kind of extra bump, and that's where they had me seated. It wasn't fancy, it was just, you know, coach seat. And we'd left San Francisco out for about 3 hours or so. And a little side note, I grew up in a family where in our kitchen, instead of wallpaper, we had a floor-to-ceiling map of the world. And I was one of 4 kids, and at meals we'd play games like to find stuff on the map. Can you find Lisbon? Can you find Perth, Australia? So I grew up with this real awareness of where everything was geographically, and I love that. And so here I am, I've left San Francisco, headed for Japan. And it's been about 2.5, 3 hours, and I'm on the right side of the plane. I thought, I wonder if the Aleutian Islands are outside the window, and maybe I could open the shade and look. You know, all the shades are down because people are sleeping. So I went, whoop, and there they were. It was the perfect time, like the string of pearls going off to the distance, and closed it real quick, not to bother people. And the flight attendant came up and said, she was a Japanese woman, said, would you like to see that from the cockpit? And I thought, we don't do that in our country, but okay. And this was before 9/11, but yes. And so she came and knocked and unlocked the door of the cockpit and let me in. And the two pilots turned around and said, "Come on in, come on in." And there was a third. They were there, and so there's a third seat behind them, kind of like a triangle pattern, and it had the sheepskin on. They said, "Hey, sit down, have a seat." Okay, great, thank you. And they raised the visor and said, "Hey." So I was able to look in both directions. She had told them I wanted to see the Aleutian Islands. And there they were, dotting their way in both directions. And then they started chatting. And they said, so I'm looking at how can we be available to connections with anybody. And they said, so first time going to Japan? Yes. Business or pleasure? Well, a little bit of both. Oh, you're doing concerts? Yeah, and some workshops. And I mean, I told them I was a musician. And they said, what kind of music do you play? And I always have trouble answering this, so I was kind of, well, actually my guitar's in the closet outside. Would you like to hear a song? Sure, bring it in. So now I'm sitting on the sheepskin, playing a song, and it's a song I had just written at the time, so it's just kind of in my bones, and I start playing, and it starts out, sometimes I feel like a bird flying over the ocean. And suddenly I realized, oh my God, what an appropriate song. and it was just, and they were both like loving it. And after I finished, the younger of the two pilots, he turned around, but he was like mesmerized. At this point I'm thinking, I hope it's on automatic pilot. And he says, are you doing a concert in Tokyo? I would love for my wife to hear that song. And well, we're working on getting one together. I'm not sure. Let me get your contact info. Turns out we did arrange that concert. Had someone call him and explain in Japanese, and he and his wife show up at the concert, and I get to tell that whole story using a translator. And then the punchline is, and there's my Japan Airlines pilot and his wife on the back row, and everyone goes, ooh. So it's fun. And why did that happen? It's just because I said yes. Yeah, I'd love to connect, and just connection happens. We're all one. We go together. We go together, and just the more we experience it, the more beautiful life is. Gosh, I have so much material. Can we stay a couple of hours? I want to say one other thing about connection before I move on to the third part is about a workshop I was a part of in San Diego. And sometimes in these workshop exercises, the instruction is, you have two partners, you face each other, and then one person speaks for 5 minutes about whatever the topic is, and the other, their only assignment is to listen. No words, just smile, receive. And a beautiful thing about that is that if you're in that position and you're told you don't have to say anything, you can actually listen. You can actually give all your attention to that connection that happens. It's such a skill just to stop talking and to take in what's being said. Because if you weren't given that instruction, you'd be always preparing the next thought. I have to show them smart. I have to reply every 30 seconds to make sure they know all this. No, just relax. And what was cute was at the end of that exercise, there was a husband and wife who married a long time. And at the end, during sharing time, the guy stood up and said, "That was a miracle. That's the first time I've ever gotten to speak that long, uninterrupted in our entire marriage." And that's a gift, really, to just let people go. Even if there's a space in the conversation, what if you just let that next thought bubble up and allow them to keep talking? And then we really get to know each other. Then connection can happen. Okay, Mark Twain said, wisdom is the reward you get for a lifetime of listening when you would rather have talked. So there he's saying the same thing. Wisdom is the reward you get for a lifetime of listening when you would rather have talked. And then the Buddha said, a trusted friend is the best relative. And how do we get that? It's through that connection. Okay, lastly, connection with God. This is about entering into that relationship with God even more deeply, entering into that. So we're going to call that our internet. Entering in. Enter with an E. So with guidance, looking at guidance, how we step into faith and our connection with God. I think one of the biggest questions that we can ask, and we're wanting to open up that connection even more and more, many times you kind of refer to that, and I want a copy of that. I hope I can take that home for Heidi to hear. What's one of the biggest questions you ask God? It's like, what would you have me do? God, what would you have me do in this situation? I'm confused. I don't know. It's not obvious. And are we willing to open up that channel and listen? But part two, surrender. And if you're willing to ask the question and you hear an answer, are you going to ignore the answer? Or are you willing to have the faith to step into, well, I'm going to go with what I heard. My heart said something. I heard a voice. I heard some words. I got a feeling. Maybe I should go with that because I don't know. But at least I got an answer. And I think that's that willingness in a way to hold God's hand as we walk through what we don't know what to do. Now, really, because you were stumbling around anyway, and you might have this thought, well, what if I do what I heard in my head? I might stumble around. Well, you were anyway. Why not have that adventure of joining with God, joining with that inner urging? Maybe you can trust that inner voice. Enter into that relationship, that connection with God. I had an amazing experience. A little less than 2 years ago, I booked this tour of North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and put this together. And I had 2 evenings at a church in Charleston, South Carolina, at a Unity. And on something like, and when you're me, you have to plan these things 3, 4, 5 months ahead, because churches' calendars book up, and you can't call up that 2 weeks ahead, and usually, and can I get on your calendar to come to some events? No. So. But anyway, I'm practically packing, and there's a church I'm going to be at about 7 days into the tour, and they call the day before I leave, and they say, we need to cancel your 2 events. We don't think we can do it. It's and part of me wants to argue and make them guilty, and the feeling, it's you can't do this to me. But you know what, I just felt well, I guess God wants me to be somewhere else. Is that something you could say in a situation like that? We have to. I mean, forcing myself into a church that's not the right energy. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's a great quote from a friend I used to work with. Alan Cohen is a wonderful author, speaker. We traveled together touring for 7 years. And one of my favorite quotes he's ever said is, work with the willing. Work with the willing. Because then there's energy. There's energy there. If you're just trying to force stuff, or you have to call someone 12 times to finally book the gig, there's no energy there. But if it's, yes, we love you, that's what you want. So anyway, so I said, I guess God wants me somewhere else. So okay, so start tuning in, put out the antenna, where am I supposed to be? And I started hearing, I have a friend in this town in Virginia, and I guess I could get up to New Jersey. I have a friend who kept saying she'd like to do a backyard concert in her home. And on 2 weeks' notice, 1 week, 10 days' notice, these are the people you call, people with homes, not churches. So, and so I ended up booking these 2 events, one in Charleston, one in New Jersey. And so I'm about 2 days before the event in New Jersey, I get a text from an old girlfriend named Heidi. And we used to date in the 90s. Met her at a Unity church and on tour with Alan Cohen in Maryland in the 80s. And we dated in the 90s, always loved each other, but just it wasn't the right timing, and just went different directions, East Coast, West Coast. Bit of an age difference. She was 7 when we started dating. Is that wrong? Is that bad? No, but a bit of an age difference. And so I get a text that she might be able to come to the concert. Oh, well, that would be nice to see Heidi. And I'd seen her 2 years earlier, just for a friendly dinner. She was dating somebody, she was with someone for 5 years. And before that, we hadn't seen each other for 12 years, but occasional staying in touch. Anyway, she shows up at the concert, and it's magic struck. It's oh my God. And we haven't been apart since that night, almost 2 years ago. Yeah. So what if I forced myself into that South Carolina church? Where would I be now? God wants me somewhere else. I guess God wants me somewhere else. And we got married half a year ago, and still in love her. She's the love of my life, and we finally got it, and the timing was right. God wanted me somewhere else. That I have to enter into that willingness to listen and not know. Be on that internet. Enter into that with God. So I got a couple more quotes for you. The Buddha said, in the end, only three things matter. How much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. I'll read that once more. In the end, only three things matter. How much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. And I'm grateful that in that case I did. I did. And I'll finish with Mark Twain. And, connection with God sometimes means rejoining, God at the end of our lives. Mark Twain has something to say about that. He says, I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and I had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. So thank you for your time, and let's remember to stay in that connection on that Wi-Fi where we find ourselves connected to our internet, with each other, our intranet, with God as we enter in that internet of connection. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you.
For that reminder of connection, especially the way you separated it and brought it all together, the three ways of connection.
Thank you. Thank you.